This is the first day of the February 93 7-day retreat in Springwater. Where are we? In the first talk together of a retreat, we usually talk about listening. How does one listen? What is open listening? Specifically to a talk like this, but also much more broadly. How do we listen to each other? Specifically, you to me, I to you. But also much more generally, how do we listen to each other? On what basis? What comes into our listening to each other? Can we look at that this morning, shed light? Not how should we listen, but how are we listening? To listen to listening? The sound of a bird? The breathing, the bird, breath in this body, someone else breathing, the bird call, and listening to somebody talking. Who's sitting in front of everybody, almost. A little table with a microphone to the side. Is that all? Just listening to someone sitting there with a microphone and what she's saying? Or is there more in our listening? Right now, as we're together here this morning, in whatever grouping and format that is taking place, does that grouping and format and just one person talking in a certain position evoke images and ideas, evoke a whole attitude? The words don't quite touch it. The words never are completely descriptive. They don't quite get at it. But they can be sort of conductors to seeing in oneself that there is an image that one has of me talking. Do we? Do we have an image of ourselves and of each other? An image of what we know she is, or what we've heard or read she is, what we expect her to be, for me, for us. It may not be clear-cut as the words seem to portray it. But is there something of that kind as we're listening? Something about the person who's talking? Something about my relationship to her, which is not completely unencumbered by ideas, imagery, what I know, what I expect. In talking about it, describing it, can it come into view now or later, whenever? Our having images about each other, ideas, remembered experiences, and therefore seeing each other through those, our perceptions always being distorted, influenced by what we already know about somebody. How are we listening? To the words and words only? Or are we looking at the same time at what takes place in this human being here that's sitting and talking or listening? Is that possible? We were never told that, maybe. We're always told, listen to what I have to say, remember it, write it down, write an essay about it, remember it for the exams, because if you don't remember it well, you will get a poor grade. We have enormous amounts of experiences like that, all of us, from the past. They're all laid down as memories in the brain and throughout the body. It's not just the brain that's remembering, the whole organism remembers. Because the whole organism is interrelated with every moment of being, of existing, of hearing, tasting, touching. Every cell and tissue in this body accompanies, is affected by what's thought, what's heard verbally, what's said. Often people tell me as they come into a meeting, it's strange, I've known you for so long, but sitting out there as a tinge or more than a tinge of anxiety or fear welling up. Why does this still come? It does. I don't know why. It's persistent. Maybe one day it won't come and then one won't even realize it. But if it arises, to be curious about it, not judgmental. We've been conditioned to be judgmental about things that happen in us, particularly if they're disagreeable. And a tinge of fear, anxiety, manifests for most of us as something disagreeable. It's upsetting whatever balance there may have been before. And it carries messages. The tinge of anxiety in itself carries messages. There's something to be feared, something dangerous here. Watch out, protect yourself, be careful. Which such thoughts going through the mind, if they are indeed those, may be different, Such thoughts cause, again, physical shielding, guarding, bracing, or just the heart pounding, intestines churning, stomach feeling queasy. Whatever. We can listen to it all. Because this is what a retreat can do, to reveal and make experienceable what is usually so hidden, so unnoticed, or denied. Here, nothing need be denied. Or remain hidden. If it does, it does. But it doesn't have to. It's all right to let disagreeableness, anguish, fear, anger, to allow it to arise into the light of day. To wonder about it, to be curious. Why this anxiety? I've known her, I've gone through this door, I don't know how many times. We've chatted together on a walk, written letters to each other. Why does it arise? As I'm sitting here in this waiting line, my turn about to come up. And to watch habits which don't make any sense. And because they don't make any sense, to give it some more watching and wondering. Listen to what we call anguish. Not immediately brace against it or want it to be finished. Here it is. What is it? I don't call it by further names. The first name has arisen, maybe the second label has two. But here it is. Here's something that can be felt, heard, seen, whatever. Listened to. With an open, unprejudiced mind. Is that possible? To listen to anguish with an unprejudiced mind? To feel it without already being opposed to it? And to question the message that arises out of anguish, the message being, watch out, something dangerous, protect yourself, close up. Or maybe not those commands, but those things actually happening. A wall coming up, or whatever. I don't want to put things there which you don't observe, but one can, by talking about it, make it more happenable, or more the observation more happenable. That when this thing is there, it can be perceived in an undistorted way, because everything that goes on around it, the opposition to it, the resistance to it, the ideas it shouldn't happen. The bracing, all of that can come into view, into experiencing it directly, without any reaction to it, any further reaction. All the reactions that have happened already are there, illumined, felt, questioned. Why? Not a why that demands an answer or an explanation, but which sharpens the listening and looking of what is happening in our own bodies and minds, this moment, palpable. As one listens to a talk, goes into a meeting. In the last retreat that we had here, which was a very new kind of retreat. We've only had it once before. I was a participant. Like everyone else. Yet in one meeting, 2 people mentioned how there is this thing still going on with Toni. Sort of watching her out of the corner of an eye during walking. Where is she? Keeping count or track of her. Something there with this person. And not to make that most habitual of jumps, to say it shouldn't be so, but rather, how interesting. How interesting the strength of imagery, of remembrance, how it affects one. To watch it, to see it, to acknowledge it. To let it be and let it go, if it will. Because if we don't fuss with our ongoing processes, they have a way of changing. Sometimes in very subtle ways, sometimes drop completely. Who knows? Not if one opposes and fights or rationalizes. This is all energy put into a habit, strengthening it. What we fight, we strengthen. And we also strengthen the separation from what's happening, the me who has this habit and shouldn't have this habit. It's the continuation of an illusion of separation. I shouldn't have it, I must get rid of it. Presupposes that there's 2 things going on, me and my fear. Me being separate from the fear, me being in a position, if I'm only strong enough or sit enough or whatever, to fight this fear or to get rid of it. Such habitual assumption or assuming strengthens this division between me and my fears, angers, pains. Whereas in reality, in truth, there's only what's going on, including the thought, this is mine, my ongoing. That's also what's going on, but it doesn't tell us the truth. It's just a habitual way of looking and thinking and talking about ourselves. I don't like my fear. I hope that after 7 days I will be rid of it. Can we listen to the way we talk? Silently, inaudibly to ourselves, about ourselves. In what terms? To let it be seen and heard in a very fine, discerning way. To learn about ourselves. This ongoing process here. To learn about it. In a discerning way, not in a judgmental or idealistic way, but discerning realistically, interestedly, what is happening. So what has been mentioned so far, can that be looked at by each one of us, including myself who's talking? I'm looking also. Do we have images of each other? Do they affect our perception of each other and our whole physical feelings of well-being or ill-being? Let it be seen, heard, felt in a simple way. Simple meaning not judged into the underground or feared without having explored it. We're really afraid of fear. We've never explored it, have we? If we have ever explored it, we will have found out about this fear. That it is not what we have been fearing, it is. It's possible. And many, many people in the course of working together have found this for themselves and acknowledged it openly, verbally. That it is possible to be with fear, that the words are still dualistic. Unfortunately, that's what the language does. But maybe we'll find a way of putting it which does not create this division. It's possible for fear to arise, to be felt, tasted, but whatever all the senses contribute, as it arises, and not needing to run away from it, or to resist it. It's possible to just wonder, what is it? And let it be there undisturbed by interfering habits. No one who has this fear, that's just another contribution of the thought process. I won't assume anything right now, starting day one. Of course, what is revealed is a million assumptions. But coming upon one, I won't assume that there's someone who suffers the fear. I'll just feel it out. Go into it. What does it feel like directly? Without all this verbiage, I've got the fear, I have to watch out, I have to be rid of it. That verbiage is not helpful in entering into something completely, without separation or resistance. Come what may. So whenever images do arise about Toni, about the fear, about myself, can one realize how they separate, how they create divisions? Maybe the thought comes up immediately, I don't want to be separate, it's bad, I should not be divided. Those thoughts add to the separation and division. All ideas we have of how we should be and should not be create our division and keep reinforcing it. All our images and ideas of how we should be or shouldn't be creates our divisions, our feelings of dividedness, of isolation and separation. Can one check that out? With which I'm saying not to take over what is said here as a truth that one adds to one's library of truths in the brain, have things stored away of what we believe is true. And by storing it, remembering it, talking about it with others, without having examined it, we contribute to isolation or separation. I have to find out whether what is being said here, even if it sounds so true, one has to see it for oneself as it happens. An image arising of me or you, what I remember about you, what I didn't like about you, and the separation is there, isn't it? There's no direct contact with people and trees and clouds and sounds as they are this moment. Instead, there is a different mode of being with the remembered scenes which the videos provide. It's our storage. Stored tapes, stored videos, which have this incredible power of masquerading for truth, for reality. I know how he is, I know how she is. Because this picture is there, it seems so real, so convincing, so powerful. So the first step is to discover that it is there. And then watch what it does. I can't see you, I only see what I know about you. I see that. So, what are you like? What are we like? What is this moment like? Do I know? Can I know? The moment I want to know, I have to use what I've got, which is files, what I already know. Knowing can't happen in any other way but to connect with known memories, known storages. But the way we are meeting right now, on a bright day with a distant hum of a motor, the warmth of the room, the breathing. Why do I need to know it? If I want to know it, I have to get to my words, get to what I remember about airplanes and people, Springwater Center, Toni. Then I'll know something, but I'm not here. Someone this morning in a meeting said, after some silence, sort of laughing, how caught up one can get. During the last 5 minutes I didn't hear the clock ticking. We didn't talk about what one gets caught up in or what this particular person got caught up in. If it's not one thing, it's another. But caught upness means no sound of the clock, no here-ness, now-ness, with something that's new, that's never been here before, and will not be here, because this moment now is fresh. And not yet known. Do we realize how much we feel we need to know it to feel secure with it? At ease with it? This knowing has become a vehicle of generating a feeling of security. That's why it feels so unsafe and fearful not to know something. Insecurity gets going. My habitual ways of feeling at ease through knowing at a moment may not be working, and then fear comes up. They're all false assumptions. We don't need to know a lot of things, a lot of stuff. When knowing is imperative and important, the brain provides it. In case of emergency, practicality, needing to find the bathroom or the kitchen. Needing to remember something about each other. Sometimes it may be difficult. A person may say, this is how we connected before. And this may provide some depth to the relationship. But it does not provide direct, immediate contact this moment between us. Because even though this is how you and I were a week ago, or a month, or 10 years ago, it may not be the way we're now. Something may have been learned, dropped, understood, and change taken place. But how lethal to still cast each other in the way we were yesterday or years ago. And subtle changes go unnoticed. A newness can be overshadowed by what I remember about you. How you were and how you probably always be. All of this is assumption. All of what we've been talking about so far is for all of us to look at, if there is the inclination to do so, to examine for oneself, alone and in relationship. It has nothing to do with authority, with accepting someone's authority. If you accept someone's authority, you feel relieved from the responsibility of having to look for yourself. Because of all of these mechanisms of our thinking, conditioned thinking, assuming that if one says something, it means one deeply understands it, which isn't true. Can you see the subtle difference between understanding a clear statement about something? Having images about each other creates and reinforces our mutual separation, division. Hearing something like this may make a lot of sense verbally, intellectually, logically, but it is not yet provide the food, which is seeing something as it happens for what it is. Not being fooled by it. Seeing that image is image, and this moment is not an image. It's not a remembered or known thing. But the image is known and therefore limiting, narrowing this broad space of being here together without image. Is that possible? I don't know if it's possible. One has to find out if it's possible. And not so much hanker after the moments without images, because then again one is following an idea. A narrow track provided by remembered ideas and ideals of being without images, being free, spontaneous, whatever, all these words which have a desirable ring to them. But to see an image arising and find out for oneself, without prejudice, how it divides. That's not a judgment to see division. That's a fact, if it comes up. And if it's seen without prejudice or without wanting it to be different, that seeing is open, is without images of the ideal state. It just sees what's there, reveals it, sheds light on it. And in such a moment of no judging, things aren't what we thought or feared they were or would be. And the amazing thing is that no one can do this inciting, this moment of seeing for one. It has to happen here in oneself. We can talk about it clearly, explain things, a dialogue about stuff. But the direct seeing cannot be done for oneself by someone else. It's impossible. We always want it to be this way. This is why we latch on to teachers, gurus. The best that a teacher can do is to put things clearly so that I can see for myself, is this so, is this not so? And wonder about it. Wonder about this feeling of blindness people tell me at times. I can't see. Everything seems to be dull and dark. I don't even want to see. I'm distracted. I think of anything else. I can't focus. Oh, something is seen. How the mind seems to thrash about in order not to come to quiet to look, just to see that, thrashing about. Trying to grab for focus and the focus eluding one. Because there seems to be, what else is there going on? Is there a fear of seeing something? A fear of changing? Wanting to continue with what I know is not the best on earth, but at least I know it. To let every momentary situation become a wonderment. What is going on? Recently someone said to me, but I don't want to wonder every moment what's going on. Drives me nuts. Just want to be without constantly questioning. Well, then be. She said, well, I can't do that either. So where are we this moment without ideals to strive after, standards, these inbuilt commands, be this, be that. Just where are we? And then quietly being. Quietly listening. Starting where we are. If we can work in this way, alone and together, what's our relationship with each other? But I'm questioning if there has to be any relationship of authority at all. It's programmed deeply into the body-mind to elevate others into the position of authority and all that goes with it in relationship with that person or with such persons. But it's not necessary. I read a while ago that for 30,000 years human beings, Stone Age, lived with each other in tribes, families, without changing much, and there was no much authority. There was much equality among the genders. Not tremendous technological accomplishments. It couldn't have lasted for 30 years if there had been. But it's possible. It's maybe how we started out. With little authority and much touch with reality. See, when you and I both touch reality, where is authority? And it's just what is. And you and I both see it, touch it, smell it, feel it, listen to it, and not know it. Maybe in working together this way, as we've been talking this morning, the relationship of fear and example and comparing and judging and striving can quietly give way to one of caring. A kindly caring for each other. Got to be careful not to instill or set up a new ideal. One may feel anything but caring and kindly. Anger may well up, resentment, hatred. And not to say, oh, I should be caring. But to see anger and fear in a caring way. A caring way would be to quickly drop the word anger and fear and enter into what's happening, wondering about it. In a kindly way, meaning not it should go away, I shouldn't be like this, but this is how it is. What is it? It happens in me as much as it happens in you, or him or her, or them, all of us. In touching fear in oneself without knowing it, entering into it, one touches fear, not just in oneself, but fear, human fear. Fear of each other. Fear of hurt, fear of being dominated. Punished, humiliated, made felt inferior. That's human fear, which comes from way our childhood, humankind's childhood. One thing I didn't say last night in the opening talk, for the benefit of those who are here for the first time, it's not necessary in a retreat like this to say hello and goodbye, good morning or good evening, thank you, please, excuse me. If it slips out, that's okay, but we don't have to. And maybe one may feel a great relief of not having to keep up all of those habits with each other in which we've learned to relate in a polite way. And not assume that because someone doesn't say hello, therefore he or she is unfriendly indifferent or hostile. Not to assume anything about each other, but just to walk the way we are. What are we without all of our acquired habits? Or is that all I am? A tremendous accumulation of acquired habits. Maybe that's all I can see right now. But how do I see it? Habitually, judgmentally, despairingly, I'm a hopeless case? Or is that the sound of the jay calling? We will end here for today.